How far can a person go in search of truth? Would they challenge their own beliefs, defy the rules of society, even stand up to the mighty church? A man who gazed at the stars and changed our understanding of the universe forever. This is the story of Galileo Galilei, the father of modern science. He risked everything to answer these questions. But in the end, did he win or was he defeated? Let's take a closer look at his life and decide for ourselves. Is the pursuit of truth the greatest form of courage or simply madness? Fact 1. He wasn't born to be a scientist, but science chose him. Galileo Galilei was born in 1564 in the Italian city of Pisa. His father wanted him to become a doctor, a respected profession that could bring wealth and honor to the family. But while attending anatomy classes, Galileo found himself watching the swinging lamps on the ceiling rather than studying human organs. He was fascinated by the laws of motion, not medicine. He was listening to the voice of nature, and eventually, science called him. He officially gave up the path of medicine and devoted his life to uncovering the secrets of the universe. For him, it wasn't a choice. It was a calling from within. Fact 2, the father of the scientific method. Believe in evidence, not in belief. For centuries, science was mostly just theory. People blindly accepted Aristotle's words for hundreds of years and didn't dare to ask questions. But Galileo was different. He said, if there is not enough evidence to believe something, then it's not science, it's just belief. Galileo observed, he experimented, he concluded. He stated that science must begin with experimentation, continue with observation, and end with a conclusion based on logic. If there are mountains on the moon, then the moon is just as imperfect as the Earth. His experiments didn't just reshape our understanding of the cosmos, they changed the very path of science itself. Galileo separated science from miracles. He turned it into a system. Today, every laboratory experiment, every research based on evidence carries his legacy. He didn't just look up at the sky, he opened a whole new path for human thought. Fact 3, he built his own telescope and unlocked the secrets of the universe. The year was 1609. In a quiet corner of Italy, a man was playing with simple lenses in his hands. It looked like a toy, but in his eyes, it would become humanity's new eye. Galileo had heard about a device made by Dutch merchants to see distant objects, the optical tube. But he didn't want to use it for trade. He wanted to use it to talk to the cosmos. He improved the simple tool. He increased its magnification. He changed the lenses, and finally, the first scientific telescope was born. He pointed it at the sky and for the first time in human history, saw mountains on the moon, dark spots on the sun, and 4 moons orbiting Jupiter. These weren't just astronomical discoveries. They were proof that the heavenly bodies, once believed to be perfect creations of God, were flawed and imperfect. From that moment on, Galileo's telescope was not just a tool, it was a revolution. And that revolution began with one man's courage to look up. Fact 4, he challenged the geocentric model. Imagine a world where everyone believes that Earth is the center of the universe. The sun, the stars, the planets, all believed to revolve around us. This wasn't just a scientific idea, it was a sacred belief. In every church, people were taught, man is the highest creation, and God made the universe for him. But one day, Galileo turned his telescope toward the sky, and what he saw shattered everything. The moon's surface wasn't smooth, it was filled with mountains and craters. There were dark spots on the sun. How could something created by God, something considered perfect, be flawed? Most shocking of all were the 4 moons orbiting Jupiter. In that moment, Galileo realized, if these 4 bodies don't revolve around Earth, but around another planet, then maybe the entire universe doesn't revolve around Earth. Galileo's greatest discovery was his courage, because he didn't just question celestial bodies, he questioned the idea that mankind was at the center of the cosmos. He wrote about it, published it, and tried to explain it to people. But by then, it wasn't just science, it was rebellion against faith, tradition, and power. The church was outraged. Earth isn't the center? Then what has God placed mankind at the center of? They asked. But Galileo had already seen the sky, and he couldn't unsee the truth. Because for him, there was only one path, to observe, to think, and to speak the truth. Fact 5, he discovered Jupiter's moons. It was a dark night in 1609. Galileo pointed his newly improved telescope at the sky and looked at Jupiter for the very first time. He expected to see just a bright dot, but instead he witnessed something entirely unexpected. Next to Jupiter were four tiny points of light, like silent guardians accompanying the planet. At first he thought they might be stars, but the next night, those lights had changed position, and again the night after, and again. Night after night, Galileo watched, and soon he was certain these were not stars. They were moving, and in just one direction, orbiting around Jupiter. For the first time in history, an astronomer had discovered celestial bodies that did not orbit the Earth. That meant not everything in the sky revolved around us. This was the first real scientific blow to the geocentric model. Galileo named those four moons the Medicean stars in honor of the Medici family, though their names were later changed: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Today, they're known as the Galilean moons in his honor. This discovery wasn't just an astronomical event. It shook humanity's illusion of being at the center. The universe was not as simple as it seemed, and Galileo had just opened its first door. Fact 6. The mountains and craters of the moon. For centuries, people believed the moon was smooth and perfect, a glowing, flawless crystal in the sky. But when Galileo pointed his telescope at it, that image shattered. He saw a surface filled with mountains, deep valleys, and countless craters. This wasn't just a discovery about the moon, it was a revolution in how we saw the universe. The moon, like Earth, was not perfect. It was rough, imperfect, and alive. For Galileo, this raised a deeper question. If the moon is flawed, maybe Earth is just an ordinary planet too, with its own imperfections. This idea challenged everything people believed, and it inspired generations to think, to explore, and to search for the truth. By discovering the moon's mountains, Galileo changed the way we look at the sky forever. Fact 7. He discovered the law of the pendulum. Sometimes great discoveries don't happen in a lab, they happen in life's quietest moments. For Galileo, it happened in a church. He had come to pray, but it wasn't the prayer that moved him. It was a swinging lamp above. While others bowed their heads, Galileo looked up. He watched the chandelier sway back and forth and noticed something strange. No matter how far it swung, each movement took the same amount of time. Could that be possible? Was motion not supposed to depend on distance? A question sparked in his mind, a question that would shape the science of time. At home, he repeated the experiment using a pendulum and timed it with his own pulse. Every time, the result was the same. The swing distance changed, but the time stayed constant. Galileo had discovered a law. The pendulum's motion depends on time, not distance. This law later led to the invention of precise mechanical clocks and changed how science measured time. It may not sound as dramatic as mountains on the moon, but that swinging lamp might have changed the rhythm of science forever. Fact 8. His conflict with the Catholic Church. Galileo's discoveries weren't just about the stars. They challenged the power of the Catholic Church itself. What he proved, that the earth moves, that the sun is at the center, that the moon is flawed, went against the entire religious worldview of the time. The church couldn't allow such a voice to grow. In 1633, Galileo was brought before the Inquisition. He was forced to deny what he knew was true and declare that the earth does not move. His writings were banned, and he spent the rest of his life under house arrest. But legend says that as he left the courtroom, he quietly whispered, "Eppur si muove," and yet it moves. It wasn't a confession, it was rebellion. Because sometimes silence isn't defeat, sometimes it's a quiet victory. Fact 9. His books were banned. Galileo's scientific discoveries didn't just face resistance in court, they also met serious obstacles when it came to spreading his ideas. In 1632, he published his famous book, Dialogue, which compared the geocentric and heliocentric models, clearly supporting the idea that the sun was at the center of the universe. This was a direct blow to the church's doctrine. In 1633, the Inquisition banned the book and forced Galileo to publicly abandon his views. But this wasn't just a personal tragedy. The publication and circulation of his book were banned for nearly 200 years. Galileo's works remained on the church's index of forbidden books. This censorship seriously slowed the progress of science as it limited the spread and discussion of new ideas. While science still moved forward, quietly in secret, Galileo's voice was often silenced. But nothing can stand forever against the power of time. In the 18th century and beyond, his works were finally published again, and his ideas helped lay the foundation for Europe's scientific revolution. This story proves that truth can be hidden, but it can never be erased. Fact 10. He went blind in his later years, and his death. Throughout his years of serving science, Galileo began losing his sight. After 1638, he became completely blind. Yet this heavy limitation did not stop him. He continued to write, think, and spread his ideas on the path of science. Surrounded by silence and solitude in house arrest, Galileo worked to unlock the secrets of science, completed his mathematical studies, and left a scientific legacy for future generations. In January 1642, at the age of 77, this great scientist passed away. His death marked not just the end of a man, but the close of an era, a phase in the history of science. But his ideas, discoveries, and spirit still live on, illuminating the world of science. Galileo Galilei, a great mind who dared to seek the truth and stand firm against belief and fear. His life story shows us that sometimes the courage of one person can change the entire world. If you were inspired by this story, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments which fact about Galileo amazed you the most. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Let's explore more scientific stories together. Thank you and see you in the next video.